are represented in those two folks for running this evening's meeting. I suggest that you folks nominate one of your own to lead the meeting.
I nominate David Goldberg.
And you need a vote to approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go for it.
Thank you. All right, I will call to order let me get my agenda out. The regular council meeting of October 14th, 2024 at 6 o'clock PM. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Dana, could we get a roll call, please?
Trustee Solly?
Here.
Trustee Salter?
Here.
Trustee Goldberg?
Here.
Trustee Hanson?
Here.
Trustee Errol?
Good. All right.
We have a quorum, right?
We do have a quorum. Next item are our minutes of the September 9th, 2024 meeting.
Adoption of the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
My bad. First time I've done this. Adoption of the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
I will second.
Anybody, David, any comments? It doesn't look like anything we would need to move up. Pretty quiet out there. All right, all in favor of
Aye.
adopting the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All against? All right. Now, our minutes of the September 9th, 2024
Motion to
meeting.
approve the minutes of September 9th.
I'll second.
Any discussion or comments? I had none. Having heard no comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, next item is public requests and comments. This is a time in the agenda where anybody that wishes to speak can speak on items that are not currently as part of new or old business, in which case we'll wait to hear your comments at that time. Otherwise, we have
Dana,
a
do we have a
2-minute,
clock?
we have a 2-minute time we'll try and adhere to.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bashir Sharma. I'm running for Village Council President. I'm holding a meet and greet this week, Thursday, October the 17th, here in the gazebo behind us, between 4:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. Please join me. Looking forward to see you there, talk to you. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Hi, Paula Slough.
Hi there.
Just wanted to ask you a question. Extenet has withdrawn the current application to give the city time to enact a small cell ordinance consistent with the state. So I just wondered, procedurally, does that go to you? Okay, and then does it go back to them? Planning commission, and then
We
it
have a
goes,
public hearing on Wednesday,
okay,
please come.
I will.
And then after the public hearing, then it goes, a recommendation gets sent to council.
That's all I want to know.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Angeline Salaka, and I'm a candidate for Village Trustee. I just wanted to say a few words. I had contacted the League of Women Voters before the forum and let them know that I was going to be out of the country for a 10-year anniversary trip with my family, and they're still working on splicing my statement into the video. So if anyone has seen that video, hopefully they'll add my comments because they graciously allowed me to submit my statement because I had a vacation planned 8 months before I decided to run for council.
The vast audience heard it, though. They did read it in.
Thank you, Trustee Seltzer. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters also for putting on forums to educate voters in a nonpartisan way. And also, if anyone hasn't seen The Eagle, they also run candidate profiles that came out October 9th, and they do a really good job of objective, quick analysis of the candidates. My 3 reasons for running are to keep residents informed, involved, and safe. And my priorities are improving communication, community spaces, and services and infrastructure. I have an Instagram, Slaka for Franklin, and my Gmail is voteslaka@gmail.com. So I look forward to seeing all of you on Election Day, or you can vote early. And I appreciate your vote. Please reach out to me with your ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Angelina.
Thank you.
I'm Joan Miller. I live at 31010 Oakley Lane, Franklin, Michigan. And I hope you don't mind if I read this. I have a board meeting I have to go to. Officially today, I've been a resident of Franklin for 53 years. I've seen a lot of changes. And when we bought our home, the realtor gave us a copy of the village master plan. And over the years, especially the last few years, there's been changes. And I'm wondering who makes the changes, and when these changes are made, do we vote on them, or is it just something that the council approves or whatever? I mean, my master plan was from 70,
7.
one of the first ones, and now I know there's 75, they've updated. And I just wondered what, who made those changes and why. Anyway, as I've told you many times before, my 3 children walked down 13 Mile and Franklin Road to the school. And during those 9 years, many of them asked for a pathway along Franklin Road, not a cement sidewalk, because the master plan says all pathways must preserve the nature, rural character. And actually, the actual words were that they would allow pedestrians and cyclists and other users to move around Franklin more safely and look and feel of roadside areas that is a significant part of the Franklin character should flow with the character-like, what they call a trail-like character paths should be curved and along with the will blend into the scenery of the village. They said a variety of the trail materials were available, should you want to evaluate and see what you thought that they should be, but not cement. But that changed, I don't know how or why, but anyway. The village's plans to put sidewalks along 13 Mile and from Telegraph to Inkster Road. I know a decision maker from Oakland County, and he said the proposed sidewalk would not be high priority for a couple of reasons. First of all, Franklin must share or give funding, and on 2 areas along 13 Mile west of Franklin Road between Inkster and Franklin, there's guardrails on either side of the road, and they would have to put in a bridge, like it is the one that's on 13 east of Telegraph. And he said that would cause closing or making a 1-lane road on 13 Mile for several months, and probably 3 months they would have to close it until they got it all finished. Another suggestion is bring in city water. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but the water lines would have to be installed, but and also existing sewer lines are not adequate, as they have to be per Detroit water and sewage specs and standards if you're going with Detroit city water. And if any of you have families with city water, you should consider leaving your well available to water the lawn, but you have to let them know when they're hooking up the system that you want to do that, or you can't do it at all. I was greatly disappointed when the League of Women's Voters had a meeting.
Joan?
Candidates.
Joan.
And only 2 of the 6 trustees came to the meeting, and so we really didn't get to know what their dreams or what they wanted to do.
Joan.
Respectfully, the times
Pardon me?
lapsed.
Oh.
So,
Anyway.
help us where you're going with this. Is there something you want to let us know, or is it you're just help?
I just want, I looked at all the literature from the candidates, and it bothered me a bit when it said, the one line in particular by a couple of people said that wait a minute. The upcoming, wait a minute, it's important because it makes a big difference to all of us older people, that the Franklin's growing young professional community calls for a balance between honoring tradition and modernizing. And when you read the many comments, modernizing is more important than maintaining our beautiful community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
comments.
Appreciate that. Anybody else?
Good evening. Mark Ziso, 32695 Redfern. I have two questions. The Women's League of Voters just kind of hit cable. Wonder why? And also the parade. You know, some people couldn't make either one. And I called Comcast, and they kind of just said, well, you can go on the internet and find it, and kind of just blew it off. The other thing is, was the trash. I happened to be awake this morning when they came through. They're not using the trucks. They're reaching in the cans, pulling the liners out of the cans and throwing them in the truck. Are they gonna clean that up if those bags explode? I mean, I thought we had to buy all these cans, and then I've heard from other residents, recycle. They're doing the same thing. They're reaching in the cans and throwing it in. For people that have bought all these $100 cans.
Well, we'll have to look into that because we're under the impression, based upon the contract, that they required us to have one-man trucks.
Yeah.
And so that was the initial decision that was made. If that isn't being followed, we'll have to look into that.
I mean, because everybody spent, you know,
Yeah,
a couple $100.
right. We'll follow up.
Okay.
We'll follow up.
And then on the
And as
cable-
far as the league and the parade, that's up to Bloomfield Cable. They're here, and we can speak to that and find out what, I know that they schedule these programs regularly. And so that, you may not have noticed them, but I know they've been on the air before.
Yeah, but it just seemed like, I actually talked to the supervisor from Bloomfield, and she said she would talk to the cable board too, because she thought it was kind of weird that it hadn't come out.
Thank you.
We'll check.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Mark, thanks.
Yeah, it is. I heard that too.
I think we're done.
That's it? All right. All right, our next item are reports from our village officers and agents. Let's start with Chief.
Good evening. I guess I'd like to start tonight is just thanking the gentleman to my left, Roger Frazier. I came here the first week of February. He's been very welcoming to me, answering all my questions. And sometimes I have a lot of questions. You know, why do we do certain things a certain way? And he's been very patient and wonderful. So hats off to him. I appreciate him. All of you have been supplied, I believe, with last month's report. You may have noticed that on the report, there's two new sections. One is training and one is community engagement. Training is something that I've talked about before. Like, it's just so important to me that our officers receive the best training. So really our goal is to double the amount of training that we do in a yearly period. I think that's going to reduce liability for the police department. It reduces liability for the village. It increases our capabilities and adds more value to the village. So that's one of our priorities. And we have entered into 2 agreements in the last 2 months. The first agreement's with Oakland Community College, and I discussed with them our budgetary restrictions. And we've agreed that they will give us a small department discount, which is great. So we're gonna give them our 302 state funds, which is, it's not a lot of money. It's under $6,000. We're gonna give them that every year, and we're gonna have unlimited training through the OCC. It's gonna give us access to the Crest Center, which is a small town up there that we can do movements and building clearing, access to their driving simulator, and also de-escalation training. So this is a huge win, I believe, for the police department. Super excited about it. And when I was at my last department, I had a public-private relationship with Rock Security, and where they would bring in some of the best trainers, Navy SEALs, guys that are experts worldwide, and they would provide training to my officers. So now they've agreed to do that here in Franklin. So we've already sent 4 officers to a range in Port Huron. Rock pays for everything, but it's state-of-the-art training, and so I couldn't be happier, so just want to update you on our training.
That's wonderful.
And then finally, I want to update you on an investigation that began on September 30th. On that date, I was given a call by someone on the FCA board, which is the Franklin Community Association, asking to meet with myself at the police department. So Sergeant Wells and I met on September 30th, and the FCA board talked to me about allegations by the former treasurer of embezzlement of a large amount of money from the nonprofit group. Our department started an investigation. We presented our findings within the week to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and the Oakland County Prosecutors did issue a 1-count felony warrant. It's a 10-year felony for embezzlement of a nonprofit group. The suspect was taken into custody later that same day, and he's already been arraigned. I just want to publicly say that the FCA and the executive board has been 100% transparent with us, 100% cooperative. So my hat's off to them. I appreciate them helping us with this investigation. And with that, I'll take any questions.
No question, just want to share my appreciation for the efforts that you've made around training. It's exactly those little new ideas that really move the needle forward, and so, or the ball forward. But yeah, absolutely great work on that, so thank you.
Yeah, I ditto that as well. That's great.
Yes, ma'am.
Will the officers still participate in some of the task forces that Dan started? And are we still fully participating in the other training that had been provided to the officers?
Yeah, so we still belong to Police One, which is, interestingly enough, the state has given us a second line of state funding called the CPE fund. And I can pay for police funding out of the CPE fund. So every month they'll have, sexual harassment training, ethics training, de-escalation training, so that's very important. But we need to do more than just online training. I need officers to be out there and doing repetitive behavior and learning from other people besides on video.
Yeah.
Certainly, I'm a big advocate of task forces. At my previous department, we were in 4 different task forces. I think it brings a lot of value to the officer and the organization because they bring that knowledge back. But right now, due to our staffing, I can't commit to that, but I hope in the future, once we get up to full staffing, that we'll be able to do that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Once again, I would like to say on behalf of the entire community how greatly appreciative we are of you and the entire department. There have been a number of incidents this month, and I appreciate the aggressiveness and persistence and the quick conclusions that our Franklin police are able to come to on a sign theft issue and on the FCA issue. We are in great awe and appreciation.
Well, thank you. It's certainly a team effort. Sergeant Wells has been outstanding and the rest of the team, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chief Aberbach.
Good evening. I won't be as long. You have my written report. Rather than come up with something, I also wanted to express my gratitude to Roger for his time spent with Franklin, working with the fire department and the various activities, as well as the staff at the village office. So pending your questions, that'll conclude my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Lance?
Mine's also going to be brief. There wasn't too much this month, but good evening, trustees and president. Please accept my written report in the capacity as the village treasurer. The bills list report for this month totals $170,276.50, and the amounts on the bills list are consistent with normal monthly spending. The expenditures are generally consistent with our budget. This bills list for this month includes a large entry. In fact, there were two entries. One is, the larger one is $34,141.13. That's for July mowing, maintenance, trees, paid to Johnson Landscaping. And they had another entry. That was two of the larger entries we had on the bills list. The village has sufficient funds to meet its current and anticipated obligations. And the list of account balances in the package is as of October the 1st. We hold at First Merchants Bank. I as well want to express my gratitude working with Roger. He's been very, very helpful, always there to answer questions. We've had a great relationship, and we're going to be sad to see him go, but happy as he's transferring his expertise and powers. Any questions?
Thank you.
This is probably a joint Lance
Sure.
and Meg question. Periodically, I know that you've assisted the staff in taking a look at banks, and wondering if that's in the cards, looking at where we keep our various accounts.
We
Just as
actually
a
had a
review.
meeting earlier this morning.
Okay.
Talking about it, and we're going to do a full review of it and make sure that it's top of consciousness there.
Thank you.
And I'll keep you posted.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
One item I have to add before we move on to current bills. Roger, you circulated a memorandum today regarding the police generator, correct? Is that something you want us to address this evening, right?
It should be, I think, added to new business.
Yeah, I think we missed that. So unless I have an objection from anyone, I'm gonna add a new item F based upon our earlier correspondence from Roger regarding, police department's request for a generator, a new generator.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. All right, we'll go to our special reports.
We need to approve current bills.
Well, we do, don't we? So, this month's bills list has a total of $170,276.50. Lance mentioned in his memo, there was one large entry. Anybody else have any comments before we consider approving the bills?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the bills list as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. All right, special reports. I guess since I'm sitting in this chair, I'll go ahead with some of the items that I had for this evening. The first item that I want to address, one of our residents was here at our last meeting, Ms. McNeil, concerning flooding on her residence on Vincennes. I have had an opportunity to meet with Ms. McNeil a couple times on this item. And as we know, we have an ongoing sort of study being done by HRC regarding the ditches and culverts on people's properties. Ms. McNeil's flooding problem, based on my walking it with her, is definitely being impacted by culverts and ditches of her surrounding neighbors, which the failures of those people's properties are impacting her. And they're not only impacting her property, they're now putting her home in danger, where she's had to obtain flood insurance. So I would like council to consider that we, at our next meeting, bring Nancy back to get a final update on her investigation, HRC's investigation, to see if that's been completed, and to consider, I don't know where our ARPA funds are at right now for this year, or, for this year, but to begin considering some of the initial projects, particularly ones where we have residents' properties that they've identified to us that are in danger. And the good thing is, we're sort of out of the real heavy water season throughout the winter, which would give HRC time to complete the report, possibly do some investigating of her property, and then have council consider whether to take bids on that and any other items that HRC has identified as being of immediate concern. We did this last year with Carroll Court, Franklin Court. So I just wanted to, let everyone know that we did follow up with Ms. McNeil, and her concerns that she raised are definitely valid. So that's it on that item. The other item, I know that Planning Commission Chair Wooters can address it later on in his report, but we did receive a memorandum from the Planning Commission regarding the marquee sign that council has asked them to investigate and to discuss. They have gone and passed it on to HDC to consider, and based on Mr. Wooters' memo, he's suggesting that we set up some type of meeting between the two or the three bodies to consider whether or not this is something we want to move forward on. So that's something that we can, at our next meeting, decide if we want to get involved in that. As a sidebar to that, between our last meeting and this meeting, there was this article in the Eagle regarding Carrie Lazat from the Cable Board and her efforts with Bloomfield Township to create a mobile app that was put in place for not a lot of money to allow residents and the village to interact, whether it's to interact for information that's being given out, or to communicate back to the village with complaints or to lodge items of concern. So I know that the marquee sign, although there are some that still think it's a viable item, I know that it's getting some pushback, particularly from HDC. So the thought is, should we maybe, again, at our next meeting, consider having our administration look into the app that Bloomfield put in place and see whether that might be a good first step to help assist in communication without having to go as far as the sign, and continue to look at the sign, but seems like the two certainly could coexist. So my thoughts on moving that forward for our next meeting, just wanted to get that out to everyone. And then the Exonet, thank you for bringing that up. Exonet has currently withdrawn their application. They're waiting to see what happens with the new ordinance. And if they are coming back with a new application, I'm also hoping that they are going to engage the resident group that's been involved and work with the residents and the village in coming up with a more acceptable location. So, thank you, Paul, for filling us in, but I wanted to make sure that everyone had heard it at this point in the agenda, so that is currently on the table. And then the last item I want to address is the trash situation. Obviously, this is an evolving item. Mark, your comments, not sure about that. I don't know why they would do that when they have devices in place for that, unless...
I don't mean to break in, but the truck that they had today didn't even have the arm on it.
Yeah, so that could have been a mechanical issue for this week, but
But the recycle did when they came through.
we're definitely gonna have to, live, I don't wanna say, evolve with them. We're gonna have to learn from them, they're gonna have to learn from us. They're trying to be respectful of what we've done in the past. The door side services are still available. If anybody in the village has been a participant in the door side service, I kinda ask that you reach back out to the village to make sure that we have a current updated list, so that we can make sure that priority is hitting those residents. By next month, we should have some better information on how that billing's gonna take place. We're currently working with them to figure out who it's gonna come from and how often a year, during the year. But the door side services will continue. Please make sure that Dana and Sue know that you are a participant and that you're getting served. With regards to the cans, so the contract that we entered into allows them to sell us the larger 95-gallon garbage cans and 65-gallon trash cans. But I just want to make sure that residents know you're not obligated to buy anything from Priority, nor do you have to use devices of that size. Really, the main requirement for any garbage or recycling container is that it be wheeled so that they can move it freely, and again, because it's going to be one person, and that it be housed with the little clip on it that they can hook the machine onto. If you want to use smaller ones that we already have, Homes, Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards all sell 45 gallons, 55 gallons, 65 gallons of that type. So you're free to use those. If you're not using Priorities, just make sure with a piece of tape you mark which one is supposed to be your trash and which one's supposed to be your recycling. But you're not obligated to use their equipment.
I thought it had to do with the caps, though. The caps need to be attached so that they don't fall off when they don't.
No, they don't, I don't think they care even as much of the caps, because the way it works, that they just dump it over. It really just has to have the arm on it.
But if the cap's not attached and they dump it over, the cap might fall in.
Oh, well,
That's
yeah,
what I
oh,
mean.
yeah, okay, right, no, most of the wheeled containers with the latches on them have a connected container. Yeah, the old, traditional
Round ones.
round garbage cans, yeah, those aren't used, and if they do have devices, actually, that can pick it up without the arm. The truck can do that, but, so if you have a container that's solid enough and doesn't have the little hook on it, you run a little risk. You can try it, and if they have a thing that will clamp it on the sides, if it crushes it, you're gonna lose your garbage can. But if it works, then that is also acceptable then. Just don't leave the lid on. That was a good point. You're right, the lid would then be thrown in. And so that's really it. There were comments, the contract says that as far as bulk items, you're only supposed to put 2 large items out at a time. Yes, they might generally stick to that. I'm sure if there's 3 out there, they'll be accommodating. It's, they probably just don't want to see you empty the garage after the fall cleaning and have it, down the block. So, if you have questions, residents, please reach out to the administration, Dana or Sue. Let us know your concerns so that we can then pass them on. I know there's still some issues with refunds and exchanges. Priority is saying that they will accommodate everyone, so if, unfortunately, they haven't gotten to you, please stick with it. Into their defense, to some extent, they just took over like 20 contracts in 20 municipalities, so there's 20 other cities getting them the same phone calls right now. So hopefully they will continue to serve us the best they can, and if there are issues that people have, please let us know. And that's it for me. Anyone else?
Yep, I just wanted to begin with reminding the public that you can begin early voting on October 26th all the way through November 3rd. Again, this is for those people who haven't previously signed up for absentee ballots, so make sure to get out there and vote. It's a nice, easy way, no rush on your time. Again, that's starting on October 26th through November 3rd at the Bloomfield Township Public Library. Also, I want to wish everybody a happy Indigenous Peoples Day. I've previously spoken to this, however, the beginning of my professional career was working with tribes in my home state of South Dakota. It happened to be, through that experience was, I think one of the most important periods of my life for shaping not only my professional development, but also my perspective. These are independent, sovereign, they call them sovereign domestic dependent nations legally within the United States, but really they are sovereign bodies, and they have such a cherished and beautiful culture. And so, again, this is a day to respect the independence, the sovereignty, and more importantly, the culture that they continue to preserve. For a community such as us, who look to historic preservation and honoring the past, this is a time to really show that admiration. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, David.
Thanks. I can go next. I just want to tag on something that David talked about with regards to the drains. We had asked, HRC to develop some educational materials as part of their work with us. It may not be timely yet, or it may be timely, not sure, but I'm gonna ask staff to pursue that. You know, as we get into remediation of some of the existing drain issues in the village, we understand how some of those problems came to be, but we also have a lot of residents who've not, who maybe aren't used to or don't understand how water flows in the village, and may not understand maybe some of their responsibilities or opportunities to keep keep the ditches clear in front of their properties, for example. A number of them have been filled in over the years, and just a general awareness. So I wanted to just mention that this week because of David's comments on the drain project, and anticipating that the engineer will be with us next month. Thanks.
I also think that, relating back to David's comments about the app that is under consideration, that's another way for us to use a communication tool, although I'm not giving up on the sign issue. And I would encourage our two committees to be able to see a way forward, to figure out a compromise position, to utilize the traffic that we have outside of our property here and the streaming cars to inform our constituents and anyone else about the many things that are happening in the community. And you can't do that unless people have ease of operation. And an app, I think, is a great concept, and I can see doing both simultaneously, but you still have to have buy-in from the public. And we already have a pretty robust email that not as many people as we would like are receiving. And even those that receive it can't seem to get through the entirety. No criticism to Dana, who does a magnificent job of editing it, but it is a long, arduous read. So I just am very focused and slightly frustrated that we haven't been able to get this accomplished. But I hope we can. Thank you.
Kathy, anything? Okay. All right. Roger or Meg, whoever's handling it.
Planning.
No.
Oh, administrator, I'm sorry.
I'm going to speak for just a couple minutes. You have a unique circumstance this evening with two administrators. In case you wondered, I'm the one who's bailing out. And just want to say thank you. This has been an interesting and generally positive 5 years for me. I think we've accomplished a bunch of stuff. We've modified behaviors, we've modified the way that we do business in a number of respects. We've brought balance to our ongoing budgeting and ways of going about that stuff, and I think we're in a much better shape as a village than we were 5 years ago. I want to compliment you on your choice of Meg. She and I have been, we knew one another because she was here before, but we've also used this overlap in ways I think was intended to spend time going over stuff that has been a big issue for us over the last 24 to 36 months and more recently. But she needs background on a bunch of stuff. One of the things that Meg didn't get a chance to do when she was here before was wander around the village and find out what's going on. And so we've done some of that. We made an opportunity to do a little bit more of that tomorrow. But what we've tried to do is to give her an understanding of how these issues, including the drain stuff, plays on our geography. And how varied our geography is as a village, because we've got a certain amount of stuff that's on the northeast side of the river, and everything else is not. We've got some hills that define where certain geographic goals are, and there's some serious efforts that need to be made to get the water out of those bowls, and that's part of what this study has been all about. We've also looked, for example, at the Irving Street trails plan. And the options that exist out there, there's some discussion about funding for that. And I also want to compliment the folks that have been running the PD, the fire department, Jared Johnson, those folks have been really good to work with. And I think that you guys have great finds in each of them. And I want to make known to you how positively I have found it to work with those folks and getting stuff done here. So, got a couple of days left with May. And again, I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, and I'll probably have comments for you later on in the agenda when we address you specifically. And yes, we would all love to welcome Meg to your first meeting and your first month, and we look forward to wonderful things from you and you taking what Roger has done in a marvelous job and bringing us to over the last 5 years and taking that and even taking it to the next level. So we're excited with the place that the administration is at right now, and thank you both for everything you do.
Bravo.
That's all I have.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Stuart?
Good evening, Village Council. Report for Planning Commission for today's October's meeting. Just a few points of clarity that was brought up earlier. We do have a public hearing for the consideration of a cellular service ordinance, and for those in the public to understand what a public hearing is, a amendment or a modification to our ordinance has been proposed, and it is important for the public to understand, give feedback, input, provide comment. It is not a rubber stamp event. It is intended for the public to give feedback and input. It is something we do have to do, so we can't skip it, and we intend our public to help us in this process. Right.
Date and time again?
It is Wednesday at 7 p.m., Wednesday, October 16th. So, the other points I'd like to bring up from Planning Commission have to do with communication. In July of this year, Commissioner Grzelcyk sent an email to council with regards to some communication ideas, proposals, thoughts, things that she's researched as our communications chair, essentially for planning. It was sent to the village council. Please, if you have a chance, if you want us to resend it. It was sent to, I don't know if trustees at Village
No.
of Franklin actually goes anywhere.
No, it doesn't.
No.
We just found that out today.
Okay.
That's an email that just goes,
Into
it's
the
not
ether?
like a group chat. It's not like a group email.
Okay.
That goes to, yeah, so
We'll have it, Dana will have to resend that to council
each of our
for,
individual emails, so we did not get that.
all right. So that was one of the points I wanted to bring up. As well, as trustee Goldberg mentioned, I sent a memorandum to forwarded to council with regards to the sign ordinance. We have had 2 overlapping meetings where commissioners from the planning went to the HCC and vice versa to our meeting to discuss this particular topic of updating the sign ordinance to allow for a media sign or some sort of digitally fronted sign to be placed in front of the village office for helping in communication. We understand this is trying to address the communication situation that we have in our village. We all agree that we need to improve communication, and this is a potential means of doing so. However, with regards to the historic nature of the village, being able to achieve that goal and still maintain the historic nature is one of the things that we like to discuss in a workshop with council. So not just, we don't have enough time in this meeting to go through all the ins and outs together along with HCC. So we'd like to propose to set up a workshop with council and village administration to discuss how we can meet all the needs of the village. Obviously it's in the prerogative of the council to just do what they feel is necessary to improve communication. If this is a means that they feel is important, then we can go forward that way as well. But we'd prefer to workshop this together. We've gone back and forth enough times at this point. We need a closer loop.
Okay?
So,
We'll work on that.
thank you.
I get the public involved as well.
Yes.
Probably have to get the church for something like that.
Agreed,
Okay.
thank you. Another discussion point we were going over is the pathways discussion, and as mentioned earlier with regards to Irving, as well as Scenic Lane has a connection point as well. So how do we maintain their current pathways and maintain the nature aspect of some of our pathways that exist today? How do we maintain that, and how do we work on those? In addition to any of the opportunities we have along 13 Mile or Inkster to improve those homes that are basically roadlocked. They can't access the village. And then we also, this week on Wednesday, we'll be talking about the Historic District R3 and the ordinances and what is preventing them from being able to, or what are limitations that are being placed unjustly or haven't been considered for R3 with the smaller lot properties. As well as clarifying, not the second point, separate point, clarifying the burn ordinance with regards to what is a bonfire. But also, I think what we have found, or what I have found recently, and just for public knowledge, what I found recently after talking to the fire chief as well as to some of the neighbors that are having concerns with this, is that the biggest concern is that fires are not being attended. They're big, they're maybe within a ring, but they're not being attended. And I think if you're talking with the fire chief, it needs to be controlled, it needs to be able to be put out, and it needs to be in a size that's reasonable. But basically, there's a few things that need to be in place, and not attended is not one of those options. So as much as we have an ordinance in place today, if people are not attending their fires, it does impact their neighbors. So just, that's already on the books. And your fires need to be attended at the very least. So we'll be working towards improving our wording with regards to what a bonfire is. Yes?
I have a question. I've become aware that regarding the work that you're going to do on the placement of fences, the setbacks in the R3 area, you know, I'm going to urge you to move with haste
Okay.
on this, because this is yet one more situation that seems to be impeding resolution of a dispute.
Right.
And we just need to get on this.
Well, so
Don't need to discuss that, but just urge you to do whatever you're gonna do so we can do whatever we need to do and this situation can be resolved.
Okay, so the direction we had been given is to look through all the ordinances, but as far as my understanding, if you're asking us to prioritize fencing in the R3, if there's anything needs to be resolved there, let's consider that for, Setbacks, yes, fencing or setbacks for R3 is be prioritized against over
I'm gonna ask my
others.
council colleagues, you know,
You want to say that?
to concur or not, but
No,
we were
definitely.
on the way to figuring this thing out. We've got another lawsuit on our hands, and we have just now delayed this again. So I don't know what you're thinking, David. I'm most interested in knowing what
I'm
would,
preserving my thoughts. Given the fact that there's the threat of litigation, I'd prefer to discuss it with counsel.
well,
Want to go to a close?
Well, I do think that, because I still have question marks around the facts that I'm interested in. Because, again, we approved to look at what ordinances make sense in the historic district. And that is a very broad thing. If we're pausing anything that happens within that district, I have concerns about, because I don't feel that that was presented to us that way. I would have approved a much narrower, if we were going to delay enforcement, or we were going to say, we're doing no actions, I as a policymaker would have said, then I need something more narrow. Give me the specific thing that you want to address, because otherwise it just feels like we're passing broad approvals to, I could say, let's do a reflection of all of our ordinances. And now are we pausing every single enforcement within the village? That doesn't make sense to me.
are we agreeing? I think we might be agreeing. in
We're
one-
probably agreeing. I'm just making my general sentiments about how I feel about the situation, because I am upset about what's been happening. I'm being very cautious in selection of my words because of the threat of litigation. But yeah, I'm not happy right now.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, this is just a point of question for my ignorance. modifying an ordinance in the middle of litigation, is that something that's done?
There is no litigation at this point.
Okay.
Okay? But you can modify your ordinance, or you can propose it, because you're in planning commission, and village council can amend,
Right.
reject, do whatever it wants.
So the answer, just a real quick answer, it would moot it out. So if that is a material question of law that's being disputed, and then we make an amendment to an ordinance that would essentially answer the question that's being litigated, then it would moot out the
Okay.
litigation. It happens pretty frequently.
Okay, good, that's good. So, just for my clarity with regards to planning, last month, my understanding was more generic, but this month it's a little bit more focused. I appreciate that, because that will allow us to actually go faster than have to look through all of the ordinances that it would be impacted by R3. So thank you for clarifying that.
Look at that, agreement, without having to go into closed session.
How do you like
There you
that?
go.
Well, good, good. Okay, so those are the main points. I'm open to any questions that you might happen to have, in addition to what planning's doing, or any additional items that we might be missing that you'd like us to focus on.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you very much.
much for everything.
I appreciate it. By the way, just, it's pretty awesome to go to a planning commission, a HTC meeting and see participation from us, and then also vice versa. They represent in our planning. I mean, that's really what we want. That's one of our goals. So it's working, hopefully.
It's a beautiful,
I'm the
beautiful thing.
liaison on council to the Historic District Commission. They were thrilled that you guys were there. They talked about it for quite a while at their meeting, so thank you.
Susan?
Good evening. So a couple of things coming up. Roger's party is on Wednesday, Krieger House, 11 to 1, kind of a come and go, so you guys can stop by. Wish him well wishes.
Is there a cover charge?
Well, maybe, for you. Second, Frankenstein Frenzy, that's coming up, October 26th. Mark Hankey promised me today he's going to be Frankenstein again, so that's awesome. Trick-or-treating up and down. If you guys want to participate, that's awesome. We'd really like it. Novak Real Estate, they're going to be doing the pumpkin roll for us again this year, so the kids always enjoy that. So excited, looking forward to it. So please come out and join us. It's the 26th. And your Michigan State game is that evening at 7:30, I believe. I looked that up. 7:30. I know that was a concern. Main Street is working on, doing our facade grant. We're extra in the can't even talk today. Distributing out, so Franklin Auto, they have gotten some money for the work that they did in the rear of the building. They did a lot of power washing, cleaned it up, painting, things like that, so they received one of the grants. We also gave a grant over here to the church, to the playground, for the mulch and everything that they do, so. Excuse me, I am working with the plaza, and they are going to be receiving something too. So they're going to be working on better lighting and some door stuff, so we're excited about that.
That's great.
Any other questions?
No, Frankenstein.
Frankenstein?
Starting time.
So lineup for the parade will be at 11:45. Parade starts at noon, goes down to around the Van Avery, and then the trick-or-treating starts. And then the library will be doing arts and crafts, and there will be, the cider mill will be participating again. There'll be cider donuts, and then they can go on to the pumpkin roll.
Excellent.
Oh, and another side note, so Meg and I have been working on, we have actually hired a social media PR person. So they are going to be doing social media PR for Main Street Franklin as well as the village. So it's a lot of loading up on the front end right now, but Meg and I are working on that. But you will start seeing more and more stuff coming out on Facebook. We're working on Instagram, then going to the website and stuff, so. Okay?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good job, Susan.
Susan, will you remind her to call me? I gave her my card, and I've not heard from her. I'd like to, okay.
Mike or actually David, anything on personnel?
Nope, no update.
Yeah,
right
we
now,
don't,
right?
yeah, we could probably get that off. That was more when we were dealing with Meg.
Doing the hiring.
All right, new business. First item of new business is consideration of the purchase of a new budgeted patrol vehicle. We have a memo from the chief. Looks like one of our trucks is ready to be retired. They have their eye on a new one. Apparently, this was part of our budget already. Anything you want to add before we consider this?
I did take a look at the mileage, which is relatively low. It's in the lower part of 70,000. But when you look at the vehicle itself and the shape that it's in, I would agree that we are due for a new vehicle. The electronics inside, the switches, the lights, they're 2 or 3, 4 vehicles ago that we purchased those items. So I think it's time to switch it out.
So when we retire that vehicle, we sell that and get
We
some
do.
money back?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
At some point in the future, I'd like to keep one of the older vehicles as a spare, because we only have 4 patrol vehicles, but
When
certainly.
you find one that's good and not really gonna reap us that much reward.
Certainly
that's
not this
probably the
one.
best time.
We just released a new policy at the police department that's gonna deal with idle time, because when the vehicle idles, either at the police station or, at a scene, that's putting wear and tear on the engine. So we have put out more strict rules on that, so that should help save our vehicles.
Has there ever been any consideration for leasing vehicles as opposed to buying them?
We used to lease them. Yeah.
Is there any upside to that?
With the patrol cars, I guess I would caution you that there's just so many miles. I mean, those vehicles could go 12, 16 hours a day, and they're driving around. So I think that would be cost
Plus the
prohibitive.
improvements we would make, that we wouldn't get the benefit of, because we wouldn't be able to sell it with those on it.
Correct.
Just an ignorance question here. Do they even do leases that are fitted for police equipment?
So like the chief's car or the DB car, I would
Yeah.
suggest that we could probably lease that
Right.
because it's very low mileage. I
Right.
pretty much drive it to work and back.
Yeah.
For the patrol vehicles, because of the mileage and the wear and tear, I would
Yeah.
suggest you don't do that.
Okay.
We'll take your lead on those as they come up.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so,
I make a
Anybody
motion
wanna
to
make a
purchase
motion?
the budgeted patrol vehicle.
I'll second.
discussion amongst ourselves. So, Roger, consistent with the budget generally? Okay, we had already planned on doing this, so seems like necessary,
Yeah.
for sure. So, otherwise, can I get a vote? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, motion carries. Thanks, chief. All right, next is a consideration of a decision on the Pickering barn. Susan, Meg have put together a memo. There's been some new developments, and we are being asked to sort of make a decision as how we want to move forward on this. So, Sue, I'll let you take the lead.
Okay, so you guys, there is a memo, and there are 2 suggested resolutions. It's going to depend on which option that you select. So, as you know, Main Street Franklin had been looking at trying to get it down there on the downtown over on 14 Franklin. That has fallen through. So, as such, Main Street's going to move on. We did have the Patronicity campaign going. It's earned about $11,300, so of course it's shy of the $100,000, which was the goal. So, with that being said, this is time for you guys to make a decision. There are 2 options. There's option A and option B. Option A could be what McKenna had suggested, relocating that barn over here behind the current Krieger barn. You could use that for different things, baseball related, maybe some other things that you could do. That is going to come to a cost for the village, upward of $2 million. So that is your option A. Your option B would be, the village and Main Street, we just wrap up the involvement, and we go ahead and push it on to Bloomfield Historical. They have expressed a lot of interest in this. The barn is in their area. They would like to put it over on Bowers Farm potentially, use it as a welcome center. So that is option B. So those are the 2 options that you guys have in front of you to review and to decide.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Pete, you want to add something before we consider this?
So, I guess my overall hope and message is that you can maintain an open ear regardless of what you choose to do with the resolution. I did speak this morning to someone who indicated a willingness to to help out. They're looking at some real estate in Franklin. They feel that the barn could possibly be located on that, but it's something that's in development. He said he's not going to know for a couple of weeks. You know, I don't know what property he's referring to, but it was a sincere, honest call that leaves the possibility out of something happening there. You know, we're continuing to take the barn down and dismantle it and save it. So I hope you'll continue to be receptive to the possibility that we could have good uses for it. You know, for me, the question with the Krieger location has to do with, you know, whether we are interested in developing an idea or a plan, vetting it out, trying to understand if it's really what the village may want, if some of the community members may be interested in it, our residents, and if it could be viable and something positive, and just giving it its fair chance.
So Pete, you said that you're gonna, for clarification, you said that you're gonna continue to take the barn down and store it, so is that currently occurring?
Right, yes.
And what funds are being used for that?
It's a private benefactor from Bloomfield, yeah, and lots of blood, sweat, and tears from yours truly and other people.
So, Pete, your passion for this has been amazing. The time you've put into it, incalculable. We all greatly appreciate what you've done. You probably have, along with others, and Sue has put in an immense amount of time as well, probably single-handedly helped save that asset. You know, we definitely have, continue our support. If there is a way that this changes in the wind, then of course we would all, or at least myself, would be interested in hearing anything. The main objective had always been to preserve the asset. Doing it with, you know, our raising funds from individuals is challenging, clearly didn't, you know, fell well short. The fact that there's an individual out there willing to assist in doing that is wonderful. That does save the asset. He's a resident of Bloomfield. It sits in Bloomfield. As much as we would love to have it, it does seem that they would get the first crack at it. If it doesn't shake out there, that's always, you know, something that we can consider in the future. But it's great to hear that it's at least being preserved. And that is, you know, was the mainest objective. Trying to get it back here in Franklin, you guys put in countless hours, and we greatly appreciate it. And unfortunately, at this point, it hasn't been successful, but to the extent it can be revisited, certainly we would, I personally wouldn't shut my eyes on it.
Appreciate that, David, yeah.
Absolutely, Pete, you've been
Fair enough.
wonderful.
I too want to say that we are all grateful for the amount of time and effort you personally put in. I know how much this has meant to you, and so I have talked about, among the things that are most important to me, the electronic sign, a bust of me somewhere here in the village, but also a statue of you somewhere on the grounds to be
That's
determined in the
appropriate,
future.
right.
But most importantly, the fact that we are part of the process, preserving, I think is the most meaningful to all of us. And though it's been a challenge, and though we've had some opportunities that sounded like they were going to come to fruition, they haven't. So this latest person that you've reached out to, if you have any more specificity that you can provide,
Right.
that could give us a glimmer, we would certainly hear it, but if you're not there yet, then don't do it.
Right, right. They reached out to me.
I understand.
And so it's premature. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So then I would say, you know, since many of us attended that last meeting and discussed all of these options, that the Bloomfield Township option makes the most sense. We're still part of the process and will be attributed to the success of that. For you, most importantly, we in the community are grateful. And I think that's probably the most logical step for us to take.
Yeah, the other thing I want to share is that, you know, we're districted for West Bloomfield, or sorry, not West Bloomfield, for West Maple. Elementary. And as part of every year, they do a field trip to Bowers Farm. So, the little ones of our community will still have, many of the little ones of our community will still have the opportunity to reap the benefits of your hard work.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to speak on this as well. Mike and I, as are the two council people who sit on the Main Street Board as voting members, and we've had a first row seat to the work that both Susan and Pete have done over several months. If you recall, it was January of '24 that the council directed Stuart and Pete to pursue first the what we called the commercial option on 14 in Franklin, thinking it was a huge opportunity to do something really cool with the downtown and historic barn. The second option that is really the reason we need to pull this back to the village council is, the second option was to put it adjacent to the Krieger campus. And there's a lot of merit to that idea. I don't want to throw it away, but, and I thank you, Meg and Susan, for drafting these resolutions where each one expresses support for one or the other options. So it's really in the hands of council right now to decide what to do. The advantage of the Krieger option is that the land belongs to the village council, and now that the barn is safely being dismantled and will be stored and ready for reconstruction at some point, there's time to think about this. I think that the work that, and I think that's what you're trying to say, Pete, is, Bloomfield Township seems to want the barn. The Bowers Farm has a master plan that includes a welcome center, and where 2 years ago, this option didn't seem to clearly exist. You were part of those discussions back then, Pete, I wasn't, but my impression is that now they've rethought their position, and now there's a place for that barn that would actually be a prominent place on the Bowers Farm land. That is a relatively recent occurrence that has really, at least in my mind, reshaped my view. Because in the end, what was our goal? Our goal was save the barn. The barn's going to be saved. That is no longer in question. A year ago it was. It is no longer in question. So no matter what happens, Peter, the barn's going to be saved.
Yeah.
And that's a win. The other comment that I want to make before council discusses the resolutions and which direction you want to take is that Mike and I sit in these board meetings. This is the biggest thing the biggest project that the Main Street Board has tackled in their existence. The board is an amazing board with business leaders from throughout Franklin, and they're engaged in this. And everybody, including me, has learned a lot about what it takes to make a big effort like this actually happen. We have learned enough that I'm confident the next time ARPA, it's called RAP money, there's another chunk of money that's going to be coming available in 2025. I think we've got some projects that could be shovel-ready in time to apply for, and we've got advocacy in the county, we could get some of that money. So that's a win too, that we've learned enough about operating in that ballpark that we can actually be a player in getting a large grant to be able to do a restoration project. I just wanted to add that to Susan's comments and to Pete's. I think this is the end of a chapter, but it's not an end of the book by a long shot, really. So I just want to leave it at that and be happy to answer questions if you have any.
And thank you especially, Pam. You've worked really hard on this. Roger, you've helped out a lot. So, and, yeah, I could talk all day about what we've learned.
We've learned a
And the
lot. yeah.
potential great things that can be done
Yeah.
all along this, in this vein.
And what we have to do as a village to
Be ready.
ready ourselves,
Yes, yes.
because we're competing
You know,
with,
we're real close. to the
34 other
big- The
communities.
big grant
Yeah.
money and having people come to us saying, we want to give you money.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think we can learn from it and be ready.
Pete,
ready
don't think
for
of this as anything but a success.
I appreciate that.
I agree
yeah,
with that
I-
completely.
I appreciate the spirit and the consideration and the kind words.
Absolutely. So, that having said, we have two options in front of us. If we want to take action today, I think we should take action today, being that we need to give Bloomfield some direction.
I make a motion to accept the resolution, option B, that was proposed.
Second.
Should we read this into the record, or is it in the record by?
I'll read it in if you want it. You want it in?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, whereas the Pickering family played an integral role in the early history of Franklin Village, and whereas the barn has been a contemporary visual reminder of the role of the Pickering family in the village, and whereas the Village of Franklin has played an active role in coordinating the preservation of this historic barn located along Franklin Road east of 14 Mile in Bloomfield Township, and whereas the Village of Franklin established a Pickering Barn Task Force composed of diverse community stakeholders to help organize the preservation of the barn and to explore options to relocate the barn within village limits, and whereas Peter Halleck has been highly instrumental in preserving the Pickering Barn, he has actively spearheaded the village efforts to coordinate the dismantling and storage of the structure, working closely with regional partners to ensure its preservation. Whereas the Village of Franklin Planning Commission worked diligently with the village administration to help explore viable location options for the barn, communicate with the task force and Main Street committees and coordinate a site analysis. And whereas the Main Street Franklin invested significant time and volunteer resources in coordinating a fundraising campaign to preserve the historic structure and explore site options within Main Street District. And whereas the current Patronicity fundraising campaign has been unable to reach its goal of raising $100,000, Main Street has not been able to identify a viable and cost-effective location within the MSF district, and as a result, are no longer taking the lead on this project, whereas the village has successfully worked with the community partners to secure a funder to facilitate the dismantling and storage of the Pickering Barn, and the council hereby supports the Bloomfield Historic Society's leadership in the barn preservation and relocation efforts.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments or discussion?
I'm disappointed. I would have loved to have seen it attached to the Krieger Barn. I think it could have been a really great asset to the community. I think it would have been a venue for weddings and celebrations, and I think it could have brought in a lot of money and a bunch of celebration to the community and just bring people here. People travel to Ann Arbor to go to barns to have weddings, and they could be coming here. It'd be so much closer and so much easier. And we have such a nice green area to be able to use, and so I feel disappointed by that. I would have more liked to have seen it go out to the community more but I understand the decision and I'm just sad about it.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor of option B, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Me, no.
All right, so the motion fails. So,
The motion does not fail.
You have majority.
You have a majority.
The motion
The motion
passes.
passes.
no, that's not how it works.
4-1.
Oh, my bad, we have 5.
I would have liked
We
that.
started the meeting with four.
We
and
started
now
with
we
4,
have
that's
5,
right,
yeah.
okay,
That's
good.
what happened.
All right, we'll do
Sorry.
that. Motion carries. Yeah, Kathy, your thoughts are, I think we all have those sentiments. Unfortunately, the economics are
I understand.
what drive that, not the spirit. Our next item is consideration of the adoption of the 2023 Oakland County Hazard Mitigation Plan. So Roger, we have the memo. Anything you want to share? This is something that we have participated in.
We have typically been participants in this planning. It involves the training for our emergency services personnel, both on the fire and the police side. And we believe it's to the village's advantage to be a participant in this program.
Do we have someone that actually acts as a liaison? Is it,
It would be police chief and the fire chief.
okay, perfect. All right, I mean, anybody have any comments before we address this?
Yeah, does this restrict us at all?
No.
Okay,
In fact, it opens up doors for us.
okay, all right, appreciate it.
What impact would this have on the ongoing work that we have with the state with regards to the former, the official name of it, the strip mall, the dry cleaners building? The Jones Building, is that what it is?
I don't know, we call it the strip mall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's ongoing work. Does this have any impact on that at all?
No, and that part of the work has been covered more by Eagle than it has this other program.
Okay, thank you.
I make a motion to adopt the 2023 Oakland County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Consider scheduling an organizational meeting for November.
So can I make a comment about this?
Yeah.
I would like to propose that we consider the organization meeting immediately following the council meeting, as opposed to pushing it off a week.
Part of it has to do with the certification of results of the election, and the timing of the election and your first meeting in November doesn't allow adequate time to do that. That's part of the reason the charter specifies the particular calculation that it does in terms of the Monday following the council's first meeting, either Monday or second Monday.
Has there ever been a time where we weren't able to certify our election post haste? I mean, I know by 8:05, we generally know where we're at.
That's not certified,
That's not certified.
and that has,
No, I
that's done by the township.
No, it's actually not
County, thank you.
Okay, but, and it takes a week?
Minimum.
Sometimes it takes more.
Or more.
So, okay, if it takes more, then are we jumping the gun by having it on the 18th?
It's a second,
Well,
it's
yeah,
a second Monday.
Wait, real
Yeah.
quick though, the second Monday again is Veterans Day.
it says following the election.
Which is the 18th.
The second
So
Monday
it would be-
Following the election.
Okay, so we're looking at the 18th, right?
I think that's
Yeah.
right.
For the organizational meeting.
19th.
19th.
Is it 18th or?
It's the
The
18th.
council
Okay,
meeting is
the
still
18th.
the 11th.
I propose that we move the council
Yeah,
meeting
we-
to the
we-
18th.
Legal dealt with that.
All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, trustee Seltzer.
I said legal dealt with that at our meeting, yeah.
So we still need to have council take an action, setting the date for the organizational meeting on November 18th.
Okay, then I'll propose the organizational meeting on November the 18th.
Set a time, 6, 7? 6 is when you've been meeting,
6 is fine.
6 o'clock.
Fine.
All right, so was that a motion?
I'll second the motion.
All right, so just to make sure, so we are moving to hold our 2024, 2025 organizational meeting for,
November 18th.
at
Monday,
six,
November 18th.
at 6 o'clock PM.
6 o'clock.
Will that be broadcast? We don't,
Maybe.
It could be.
I don't know if we have in the past. Maybe we should just look that up. I don't know.
The charter does.
I'm just
state at
asking.
8 PM. Now, if we start our meeting and go towards to 8 PM, I think we're complying with that, but it does.
It does say 8 PM?
Yeah,
Yeah.
section 6 says,
Well, does that,
How rude.
but wait a minute. We changed our official meeting time
Yeah.
from 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock many years ago. Then we changed it just recently from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. That's probably not in the charter either. Does it matter, Peter?
it says, for other meetings, council may,
Yeah, it
Oh,
does
okay.
by
say that.
ordinance
All right, then.
or resolution.
So then we
change.
have to have it at 8 o'clock.
We do have to have it at 8 o'clock.
Fine. Okay. It's kind of crazy. Okay. All right.
next item on the agenda.
We didn't
Hang
get a
on, we need
vote.
to vote still.
We haven't voted?
No.
All in favor?
All in
Well,
favor?
we need, I don't even, have we had a motion yet?
Yeah, we.
I made a motion.
We had a
And I
motion, and she
seconded
it.
seconded it. We discussed it. We moved it to 8 o'clock.
I don't care whether we talk about it now, but what was the rationale? You said legal decided that we're not, we've already addressed it in legal with regard to having our meeting on a federal holiday of Veterans Day.
We looked at the history, and we've always done that.
So what is your, so you're saying you want to move the, you still want to move the meeting from on Veterans
How
Day?
about if you take care of this item first? and then-
Right.
That's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't want to lose sight of the conversation.
All right, so we're gonna first take action on,
Well, let me ask, wait a minute, let me ask a question now. If we decided, even though we decided not to change this to the 18th, could we do the organizational meeting right after that meeting?
If you were to move the council meeting?
Yes, as long as you do it by resolution, which you're doing now.
All right, well, let's speak to David's concern. We looked at the history of council meetings. They've always been on the same date, regardless. And there have been holidays over the course of time, even Jewish holidays, that we have not changed the official date of the meetings. So for consistency, we said, let's just keep it the same. That was the result of the conversation. Having said that, I don't dislike the idea of trying to marry the two meetings. So if council wants to discuss it.
all right, so we're gonna take this in two steps, because first and foremost, per our charter, we have to schedule our organizational meeting for 2024 and 2025. And per the charter, that has to be at 8 o'clock PM on October 18th. So we have a motion on the table. November 18th. We have a motion on the table and a second to approve the organizational meeting for November 18th at 8 o'clock PM. So let's take action on that. Then we can take action on whether we want to consider moving the council meeting for both Veterans Day as well as to consolidate, not having to come
Yep.
back. So, on the first item, organizational meeting, Monday, November 18th, 8 PM. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, so that will be our organizational meeting. Now, you have raised this at legal. The only discussion we had was, we don't make decisions at legal. The only discussion we had was, have we in the past moved meetings for specific federal holidays? I mean, we meet on Mondays, all federal holidays for the most part, other than a handful, are on Mondays. So have we in the past taken exception for certain federal holidays? Veterans, of course, being an important one and respectful to all of those that have served. So that was the dialogue that took
Yeah.
place at legal, and the answer was, traditionally, we haven't. Traditionally, you know, the holiday itself is sunrise to sunset, and we're into the evening already of Veterans Day. However, certainly want to be respectful of that, want to be respectful of your concerns. So, to the extent we have the ability to reschedule a meeting, and if it makes sense to, we probably could have our meeting at 6, and if we're not done at 8, theoretically break out of the meeting, have our organizational meeting, and then continue with our council meeting. If it's in everybody's druthers to try and consolidate the two, then let's
Well,
consider that.
What we did say is that we would make a special point as we opened our meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance.
That's the other thing, is
on
do we use that as an
stating that we were
opportunity to-
doing this in honor of veterans on Veterans Day.
That was the other part of the discussion.
So I thought that was a reasonable compromise.
Oh, that was part of it.
Because traditionally, we have not moved our meetings. We've only canceled for reasons of having sparseness in the month of January a couple of times. But every other, in the past history of council, has always been on Tuesdays, the second Tuesday. And I am fairly sure if we look at the calendar, we've had some conflicts.
Second Monday.
Second Monday, I'm sorry, thinking of another council meeting I have. I'm pretty sure that if we look at the history, we probably find that we've had this happen in the past, and it could happen in the future. Question is, do we want to modify for the sake of one holiday, and then what about the next one that
You
comes?
set a precedent.
And set a precedence. I think it could get a little sticky.
I mean,
That's,
Frankly, I don't think it'll be sticky. I think moving forward, we just do the scheduling, we note holidays, and we can have
Yeah.
that conversation.
always-
But let's just focus on this single one
Yeah.
where, practically speaking,
It accomplishes two things.
yes.
That, from a practical standpoint, and as well as being the respectfulness that
Right.
you're trying to accomplish, it does accomplish something else. Having to meet twice, you guys staying twice.
Right.
There are definitely benefit to that.
One thing that you might keep in mind is that with your November meeting scheduled at the second Monday, it's the existing council members who convene for that meeting, and the new members are sworn in at the organizational meeting for the change in membership. So you,
That's right.
So we have to observe that in
There
the
is a
meeting.
changeover that happens. Some people,
Yeah.
yeah.
I get it.
Hold on, back up.
You are making me
can be
hopeful. This is my last.
I think we
meeting.
best leave.
No.
So David, let me, correct me if I'm wrong procedurally, but the way that I'm viewing it is, again, if we started at 6, then we said at 8, we're doing the changeover. At the 8 o'clock, we'd come in with a new council
Yes.
at reconvening.
After being sworn in, doing all the
Yeah.
ceremonial, yes.
That's a wonderful point.
Yeah, I think that could be a little awkward.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Right.
let's just say, we did give this due consideration. I do believe, and I do respect the spirit
Yeah.
of the idea.
Yeah.
And I do believe we start the meeting by suggesting that how grateful we are to our veterans. But it's Veterans Day, and this is our council meeting. So that would be my,
So for clarification, so on the 11th, we will meet with this council.
yeah, for the last time. And then the following week will be the organizational meeting with the new members of the council.
Okay,
Okay?
then we don't really have a choice.
Did we already vote on this or not?
The first one.
Yeah, we voted on the
We
first
already
one,
voted
and
on
we're
the
not
first
gonna
one.
take any
Right,
action
August.
on this next
Okay.
one.
I guess we never had a motion,
Never had
so,
one.
No, that's a great point, David, and maybe we work on
yeah,
making a nice statement at the beginning of that meeting.
may want to create a resolution or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think That's
Yeah,
appropriate.
we could do a proclamation.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
proclamation's the better thing, yeah.
Thank you.
That's great, thanks.
Okay.
Great idea, David.
Okay.
All right, let's now consider a proclamation for Roger's retirement. Roger, everybody has said some beautiful things. I too want to say how much appreciation I've had for the time you've been here. In the last 5 years, you've definitely educated me on the nuances of municipal government, how the inner workings work, and I'm greatly appreciative of everything you've done to the village. And that's the reason why we want to read a special proclamation in your honor. Before we do so, I will leave the floor to anybody else that wants to.
I also
Say
want to
anything.
thank you for bringing your experience, your wisdom, your patience, and this is a challenging little village, as we all know, with a lot of characters, including the people that are right up here. I said characters, but I know it's probably more singular than anything else, and that's fine. I own it, okay? Happy with that. You have been a pleasure to know and a pleasure to work with, and we're grateful as well that this transition was handled so professionally. We all know the potential fallout when there's a transition. You and Meg have been friends. When we first told you of our consideration, you were supportive, and I think it's actually been a really nice blending. And so thank you again. To you and Sue, enjoy your second retirement. Hopefully this one sticks. Fourth? I sold my business twice. I thought that was a record. Thank you, sir.
I'd be happy to read it if you'd like.
Please.
And I'll just say thank you both for your service to the village and just public service at large, so, thank you.
And I'll say thank you. You came at a time when we were just beginning. We were like a year into the streetscape. Do you remember that? And it was getting rough out there. And
Nothing to it.
you know, as one of the people who was writing point on that project at the time, I was particularly happy to have your experience with large, complicated projects in a municipal setting, and, you know, and your ability to work with the different task forces that we've had at the time. We landed well after it was over, and that's in no small part due to your leadership of the village, along with the leadership of the council and others in doing that. So thank you particularly about that. Yeah.
Ready? Whereas Roger W. Frazier has served the village of Franklin as village administrator since December of 2019. And whereas Roger has over 44 years of local governmental management experience, including 22 years as an appointed chief administrative officer in 4 cities, 1 county, and 1 village. He has also served 2 years as deputy state treasurer for local government services in Michigan, working with financially distressed cities. He has expertise in most aspects of village government management, including working with and coaching elected officials. And whereas Roger enjoys a special connection to the village of Franklin, as his parents owned and operated the Franklin Food Shop from 1941 to 1958, where he and his parents, grandfather, and 5 siblings lived on the 2nd floor. And whereas Roger has served on a number of advisory and voluntary boards, is a longtime Rotarian, and was elected to the board of directors for the Loch Alpine Improvement Association in Washtenaw County. And whereas Roger has been married to his wife Sue for over 37 years, and together they have 12 beautiful grandchildren. And whereas Roger has submitted his resignation from the village of Franklin effective October 17th, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the Franklin Village Board of Trustees hereby recognizes the outstanding contributions of Roger W. Frazier during his tenure with the village and expresses profound gratitude for the time he has given to the village of Franklin. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution and expression of civic appreciation be presented to Roger W. Frazier on behalf of the undersigned.
Thank you very much.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Yes, Roger. Thank you so much for your guidance. All right, our last item that we added, looks like the generator's kaput.
I don't think we're gonna get a standing ovation for that, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, somebody might.
I forgot about F.
So this is one of those unexpected expenses that certainly wasn't budgeted for. There is a list of items that we see potentially in the future that need to be replaced that are big-ticket items. I know Meg and Susan have both talked about a capital outlay plan moving forward, and I think that's a positive thing and something that would be beneficial to the council. We saw 3 different quotes from area vendors over the past several weeks. It's been like pulling teeth to try to get them to come out to try to give us a quote. They're just so busy, and there's such a backlog of business, apparently. But we did manage to get Total Energy Systems out. They're our current vendor at the police department. They sell Kohler generators. Cummins, which is obviously a major company, came out. And Joe Pizik, if I'm saying their name correctly, Electric, which sold the Generac generators to both this facility and across the street. Total Energy Systems proposed installing a 36 kilowatt generator, which is much less than the current generator we have now, but they said was sufficient. Their proposal included removing the old generator, installation of the new generator, including hookup fees, and their quote was $42,804. And they have a 5-year warranty on that. That's a manufacturer's warranty, which is pretty much the body of the generator. Cummins that came out, they took a look at the site. They weren't comfortable with the small area that they had to work with, so they emailed me and said they would not be giving me a quote on the project. Joe Pizik Electric proposed installing a 48 kilowatt generator, obviously a little bit bigger than Total Energy. Their proposal included removing the old generator installation, a new transfer switch, and installation of the new generator, and their quote was $35,000, or $35,298, with a 10-year manufacturer warranty. And that's actually the good news, I'm just saying. Total Energy Systems is saying it'll be 14 to 18 weeks to get a new generator. So that's gonna take us through the winter, which is not great. Joe Pizik Electric is 16 weeks out. So the problem we run into is because we're going through the winter months, I need to get a temporary generator. I do not have a quote from Joe Pizik Electric. They're having a terrible time getting a quote on that. But the fees are anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 a month for a temporary generator.
Do you have to get it, even if we don't need it, or can you only get it if we need it?
Well, we could probably have them bring one out. It'll be on a tractor trailer, which I've done previously before, and that is shockingly expensive. But it just depends on how many times we have to do that over the period of 16 weeks. So I think my preference would be to have one on site that's ready to go, even though it's very expensive. I know that Roger and I have talked about, how do we pay for that? There's gonna be some sticker shock up here. So I said, we've had a very difficult time attracting talent to the police department over the last 3 or 4 months. We've actually had no applications for police officer during that time. So I'm willing to put that recruiting on hold until we get through this project to help offset the cost of the temporary generator. The cost of the generator itself, I would ask you to try to find the money for that. That's not currently in my budget.
There's nothing they can do to get us that generator faster.
I was told no. The current generator, they opened it up, they showed me, there was mice ground up in it, it was a mess. The starter has sheared off 2 or 3 different times, and there's internal damage because of that starter was shaking and vibrating. And there's also a crack in the engine block, so all 3 companies told me it's not worth fixing.
Have we had a maintenance contract on that? Does anybody know?
That thing was 20 years old when Dan started.
No.
So it is, yeah.
All right, that thing's shot.
About how many times?
So it's 30 years old?
Well, when did you go that building?
2001, and it was put in at that time.
25 years old. So I would say it's not a question. I mean, it's a necessity, right? I mean.
Which one, which piece? They both?
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to
Yeah.
get a new generator, and we have to have a temporary generator.
Yes,
as you
as
get
far as
into
the new
winter.
generator, so not in the budget, but do I recall that we did put in this budget like 100 or 140 for like capital types? 110?
Projects that were listed.
They were listed, but we could amend
And
the
that's
use.
But it was 110 was the total.
Yeah.
In that account.
Have we needed to go in, granted, we're only in
We haven't used any.
October, but we haven't yet.
Yeah. But
It
it's
makes
there.
sense to go there first, and then if something comes up, amend the budget when those things come up.
So my expectation is that if you take the base salary for a new patrol officer, it's what, 70-something?
Yes, sir.
And if you had 6 months of vacancy, you actually got more, you got started on that already.
That's correct.
Then you have at least 35,000 that you could save in a period of 6 months on the personnel end of this, that would make a substantial dent in the cost of this generator.
Right.
So Kurt's willing, the chief is willing to do that. He was very responsive as we talked about that. And I knew that we were gonna have some discussion here about how the hell do we pay for this.
I mean, it's capital improvements that we have to deal with, and that's why we set aside certain funds for it. And if we ever have to, at the end of the year, adjust our budget and dip into the general fund, when we have to, we have to. I'm not a huge fan of just foregoing looking for an officer, particularly if an officer comes along. It would seem that at least not paying the officer for a month, or not pursuing someone for a month or so, will at least cover this additional $7,500 throwaway money to just have a temporary generator. I mean, at least we get benefit out of the $42,000 we're spending. The $7,500 is literally throwaway money, but that would seem like, at least, hold off for that period of time.
But we've already had a vacancy for 6 months, right?
No, I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying, I
No, I'm
wouldn't,
just-
if an
so we already
officer
have
came
35.
along, I wouldn't say, oh, well, we can't hire you because we had said we're on a,
No,
we're
no,
not
no.
looking for officers.
I wouldn't say that.
I would look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
take advantage of the opportunity as long as possible, but I wouldn't just forego
I
the
agree.
look. To
I agree.
the extent we get 3 months and pay for this, like I said, this throwaway money, that would be definitely helpful.
Okay, thank you.
And my only comment's not helpful, just to throw a comedy of, why do we need this? We don't lose power.
Where do you live?
He's got an ivory tower that you've never seen before.
Well, I have no hair, so I really want to. But, you know, I'm concerned in the winter months, obviously, the comfort of the officers that we that work in the
Of course.
station, the clerk, and obviously the freezing water lines and things like that, so.
No.
Next to the comfort of the council, there's nothing more important to us than the council, the police department's
thank you.
comfort, so.
The only other thing I'll put on your radar is that there are 3 furnaces within that building. Why there are 3 furnaces, I have no idea. But they're all end of life. They're the same age as the generator. So at some point in the future, we'll have to address that.
Definite expenses coming up.
Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
They're inevitable. so
Yeah. Any other good news?
The sooner we get ahead of them and get good deals would be better.
Do we
All
need-
right, so we need to take action. So I need a motion.
Motion to approve the generator.
We should decide which one.
Yeah. I think the recommendation would be the 48 kilowatt at 35,000.
For 10 years, at a
Yeah,
10-year
with the
warranty.
10-year warranty.
Motion to approve the the $35,000 generator and the rental of a temporary generator as needed until the time that we have the replacement ready.
That being the preference, coming out of this is for the 48 kilowatt at 35,000 with the 10-year warranty?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So that's the right size, because there's quite a big difference between the two offers.
The 48 is bigger and cheaper.
Cheaper, and has a longer
Bigger and
warranty.
cheaper,
Yeah.
and a longer
Yeah.
warranty, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, it would be consistency with what is being done here and then what's done at the police department. My understanding is this is I know nothing about electricity, but a 1-phase electrical system, and we have a 3-phase. So that's why we can't tap into one of these generators temporarily.
All right, motion's on the floor.
Yeah.
I'll
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to
Aye.
adjourn?
Yep, that's our last item. We'll adjourn the meeting. Mike, I know you gotta get somewhere. Go ahead. We'll get, meeting's adjourned.
Nope.
Goodbye.
I have a
Hold on.
question that I think you need to hear the answer, John.
Close.
The question is, in the first proposal, there was a temporary generator that was included in the overall cost of $42,000.
Oh,
This one does not include the temporary generator, if I
Oh.
remember.
So neither one included it's additional.
oh.
It's additional on both of them. It is additional.
Okay, but is the additional 35, is that in the 35,000, or is that going to be in addition to the 35,000?
In addition, and I don't know what that cost is because he hasn't gotten the quote back to me.
Didn't you already say it was
It's between 2,500 and 5,000. That's what I've been getting back from different
25,000
companies.
to 5,000 a month.
2,500 to 5,000
A
per
month?
month. Per
Per
month.
month, okay.
well,
Ooh,
I want to make sure that
that's a
you
huge
were
difference.
yeah.
that that's still
It's
out
still
Oh,
extra.
so that, the 2,500 is not a firm
It's
quote.
not.
It is not.
And could it be less? Can we get the temporary from somebody different than Pizik?
I can,
If it was
I can
cheaper?
continue to call around and try to get the best price, certainly. I can do that.
Obviously, we're gonna look for the most efficient and least expensive rental situation, so let's
Yes.
just leave it at that. And then if it's outrageous, we'll have to reconvene about it, I
If it's
guess.
separate and we're not getting benefit from another quote by it, then we need to go with the best quote.
Okay.
And we'll deal with the generator.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.